I call this meeting of the Needham Design Review Board to order. I'm Mark Lusing, the board chair. I would like to confirm that members and applicants expected on the agenda are here and can hear me. So members, when I call your name, please respond. Chad Riley.
Here. Steve
Tanner. Trying to catch up with us. Len Karen.
Present.
So there are three of us, so I declare we have a quorum. Also attending is Elisa Lichman, our department staff person. Applicants on the agenda. I got the wrong two people, sorry. Please let me know if you're here. Walker School, 1968 Central Avenue.
Yes, here.
Yep.
Okay. And that's Susan Canning and Chrissy Ripley.
Correct.
Yes.
Please say your name so that it gets recorded. Boston Properties, IDG 140 Kendrick Street.
Yep, that's right. That's George Needs from Boston Properties.
All right, thank you. Welcome to this open meeting of the Needham Design Review Board, which is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. We've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. For this meeting, the Needham Design Review Board is convening by Zoom app, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and that you take care not to screen share your computer unless we agree to let you do that. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. All the supporting materials have been provided by the applicants are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We are going to start with the first item on the agenda. Before we do, let me lay the ground rules for the conduct of our business tonight. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each to provide comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. For any response, wait till the chair yields to you and state your name again before speaking. Each vote of this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. At the conclusion of your application and review, 3 copies of the application and relevant documents will be noted, stamped for the type of approval you received, and 2 copies will be mailed to the applicant, and 1 will be retained for our records. I would like to ask the applicants to, at the end of their review, to confirm where the documents should be mailed. So I will now start with the first item on the agenda. And this is Walker School, 1968 Central Avenue, applying for monument sign. So go ahead, Susan, or
Sure. My name is Chrissy Ripley. I'm with Sign Design. We're located in Brockton, Mass. We're working with the Walker School to replace their 2 post and panels that are existing at the entrance of their property. We're leaving the post as existing and just changing out the panel as a brand change. It's going to be a 1-inch thick panel with metal faces, and we're also doing raised lettering on the front. We're keeping the size the same. The posts are existing, and it's just basically a change in the logo presented on the panel. Both of the signs existing are single-sided, so we're proposing them both to be single-sided again.
do you know the square footage of the sign?
Currently, we have it 34 by 67. I believe the existing sign is closer to 36 to 37 inches high, just because it has the round portion at the top, and where the revised is just a flat.
And the height of the lettering, like the large W, so we get a sense of the scale.
Sure. The whole panel is 34 inches. I would estimate the W to be about 12 inches high.
Okay. All right, so I'll open it up to the board. Chad, any questions?
In terms of the existing sign, the blue lettering and the little trim that's around the outside, do you know what kind of construction that is?
It's a flat vinyl graphic right now. The only piece that's raised is the W, the circle W at the top.
Right.
That's an added element. So the new would have the W and Walker raised, therapeutic, educational, and the address would be cut vinyl letters.
Yeah. And I guess the only other question I have at the moment is I see that on the old sign, all it said was 1968 Central Avenue, and in the new sign, you're suggesting 1968 Central Avenue, Needham. I'm just wondering if the word Needham is really necessary, or people are aware that there'll be a Needham when they get there.
That's a good question. We were wondering about that because it's on the Needham-Dover line. So for people trying to find our location, but open to change.
Do you have any other? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, just I think from my standpoint, it's when you see the 1968 Central Avenue, especially if you're driving in a car, you can see it fairly quickly. Adding the word Needham, it just tends to lengthen it out and might get a little busier and make it actually harder to read.
Mm-hmm.
Len, do you have?
Yeah, I agree with Chad that it does look a little bit busy the way that it's written out with the word Needham. One possible solution might be to put Needham below the address if you feel like it's necessary for people to demarcate whether it's Needham or Dover. Otherwise, that would be my only real input.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, I think, so we also have a Watertown campus, and the design works, we want them to look somewhat similar. So we, again, with the Watertown campus, it's unlike, I think it's a Belmont Watertown line. So we could do the same thing. We want the format to sort of look the same. So if we put Needham underneath, that would solve that.
It seems to make sense to me. Chad, I don't know if does that work for you?
Yeah, I think there's enough white space that, I mean, you might want to shift all the Walker text up a little bit in order to get it in. And then I guess you just have to decide. Right now, there's two lines that are kind of banding the top and bottom of the address. And so would you go with 3 lines or just one separating the two? It's a pretty faint line, so I don't know if it makes a huge difference, but if you get 3 lines in there, it might start to look a little busy again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do not want it to look busy.
We would most likely eliminate one of the, if we move W and Walker up, we may just do 1 line and then move the address down. I wouldn't do 3 lines. I agree. It would make it way too busy. Yeah.
Steve, any comments, questions?
Is the sign double-faced?
Single-sided.
What's on the back?
It's just white.
Okay.
It'll be a finished white sign on the back side.
Okay, well, I think I would agree that it's, I mean, I'm not sure the Needham's necessary, but if you do have other campuses, I can see the need for that. But I think, yeah, if you put it underneath, had the line between them, and then reoriented the graphics on the panel slightly, I think that would work well. Do the other members agree?
I agree.
Right, so I would, and any other questions? Right, so I would take a motion to approve with conditions that the word Needham be placed under the address and be separated by a single line. And they're free to reorient graphically up and down as they choose.
Great.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, we have to do a roll call vote again. Sorry. Len Karen,
In favor.
Chad Riley,
In favor?
Steve Tanner,
In favor?
and the chair also approves, so it's unanimous. Again, could you confirm where we should send your information? I've got your application sheet. There's sign design. There's also the Walker School.
You can send it to Sign Design to 170 Liberty Street in Brockton,
Okay.
02301.
All right. Thank you.
And then once we receive that, we can apply for the standard building permit.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
So the next item. The next item on the agenda is 140 Kendrick Street. George Needs with Boston Properties will be presenting. We'll start out by saying that, well, asking you, did you speak with the building department at all before you submitted this?
We haven't yet.
Okay, because you're going to require, due to the number of signs and the size of the signs, you're going to be required to get a special permit.
Yes. So we have an existing special permit in place as part, but it's completely a separate signage agreement.
They don't carry over. So
Okay.
that sign is for the PTC signage only.
Okay.
You'll have to reapply for those. But what we can do tonight is kind of go through the package with you, give you some feedback. You can get that process started. If there's any adjustments we ask for you to make, you can go ahead and make those and get those put in.
Great.
And make everything a little easier, I think, on your next appearance.
Okay. Good.
So everybody either can look at it or has it. You can see that they have the existing monuments. They're basically changing sort of the same approach on the existing signage. But why don't I let you go ahead and talk us through what?
Yeah, so just quickly by way of introduction, my name's George Needs. I'm a development manager with Boston Properties. So sort of I'm here representing the landlord, but here on behalf of the tenant. So we have a new tenant coming into the building. It's IDG, and they are coming from Framingham. So I think anyone who's obviously familiar with the building probably know the building as being PTC's headquarters. Obviously, as you probably know, they've since relocated to the Seaport District, so sort of left us with an empty building and the enviable challenge of releasing it within the middle of a pandemic. So, so we signed a lease with IDG. It's an existing 380,000 square foot campus made up of 3 buildings. Signed a 125,000 square foot lease with IDG, and they're going to be taking an entire building, so one of those 3 buildings. So obviously, excited about that. That happened in April. They're under construction. They have started their fit out, and they're planning to be in occupancy in January of 21. So just to sort of quickly take you through the signage plans, and just by way of context as well, we plan to do a more extensive renovation of the building and of the asset. And with that, we're going to, upgrade all the signage and the wayfinding throughout the campus. But the idea is that's going to, we're still in the planning stages of that, so that's going to come later on. So we sort of want to kind of get IDG's signage in and up on the building, obviously prior to them occupying in January of 21. So what you'll see today are 4 signs that we proposed. A couple of those are temporary signs until we come back with the sort of the permanent signage plan, and then 2 of them are going to be permanent. So just to sort of, if you orient yourself with the campus, there's 3 buildings you'll see on the map there. I've noted the signage locations. So I'll sort of start with A1, and then we'll go around A1, A2, A3, then A4. So A1 is located right on the mechanical screen. So that is an existing PTC sign that they have up there today. Now that screen faces I-95. So really we're sort of simply replacing the existing PTC sign that is there today, with another 3-letter acronym. So the existing sign today is roughly 15.5 feet in length and 6 feet in height. So it's roughly about 92 square feet in area. And the proposed sign that we're IDG are hoping to install is roughly 14'8" and about 3'8" in height. So it's roughly 53 square feet in area. So it's slightly smaller in size and scale. Now the intent is that the letters will be individually sort of acrylic mounted letters. They will have a perforated black vinyl applied to the face of those letters, and it will be internally lit. So obviously that allows it to be consistent with the dark coloring of the brand logo during daylight hours, and then obviously at night, once the sun goes down, it'll be lit. Similar to how you sort of see those precedent images on the plan there. So that's sign 1, and within that I've included a sort of a view. It's a very quick view as far as if you sort of blink too long on I-95, you kind of miss it. But you'll see there's a small opening in amongst the trees there, and then I attached the existing PTC signage application as well, just for context and reference. So I could. Would you like me to bounce to the next sign, or do you want to stop on this one? I can go through it all and then come back. Sorry, Mark.
Mark, I think you're on a mute.
Yeah, go through them all and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Thanks.
So so the second sign, this is a new sign. This does not exist today. And similar to the sign on the mechanical screen, it's going to be affixed to the building exterior. So it's actually facing the interior courtyard. So externally, outside of the campus, you're obviously not going to be able to see it. And it's really there just to provide wayfinding for any guests visiting the campus, and it gives IDG's building, which is single tenanted, their own identity. Very similar in detail as far as sort of how it's put together. However, it's a little smaller. It's roughly 10'9" in length and 2'8" in height. And I think, if you look at the scale, it sort of felt right relative to the building. And it's sort of sat within that brick band. So it's sort of framed by the brick band, and then sort of height-wise, and then it's framed by the window mullions on the length. So again, sort of similar in construction to the previous sign. So individually mounted letters with a perforated vinyl application and backlit. Sign 3. So now this is the next 2 signs are more sort of wayfinding signs. So this sign is replacing the existing PTC sign on the monument to the campus entrance. So we plan on, as I mentioned, we plan on sort of upgrading all of this. All the wayfinding signage, but just for the interim period, we're simply going to replace PTC's logo with IDG's. So it is going to be temporary until such time. So the existing sign today is roughly, as far as the logo, is roughly 4'7" in length. It's about 1'9" in height. And it's roughly 8 square feet in area. And the proposed sign is 3'10", 1'10" in height, which is roughly 7 feet. So again, we're coming down in size slightly. And that's really simply, to the extent we have to, we'll just replace the metal panel there, and it'll be some sort of vinyl film application for the logo. and you'll see that they've, they have both their brands on that one. So the previous two signs was just IDG, which is the parent company. And then they, on the wayfinding, they're also having IDC, which is one of their wholly owned subsidiary companies. And then the last sign, and finally, this is another new sign that does not exist today, but it's it's going to be temporary until we upgrade the building monument signage. So this will be installed at IDG's new entrance. So this you'll see within that frame that will stand as a new entrance for IDG into that building, which doesn't exist today. And this will serve as their primary entrance. It fronts the interior plaza, interior courtyard, and then it's really just to identify the building entrance for any visitors coming in. So it's really just a simple 24-inch width with 16-inch in height, with the logo sort of standing 16-inch in width and 10 inches in height. So very simple metal panel, sort of a plaque applied to the brick, with either some sort of engraved logo or some sort of vinyl application. So that's really, that's sort of the general summary.
Okay, thanks. Why don't we start with we'll just take them in order. We'll start with A1. I guess I want to just get a couple of quick questions in, and then I'll turn it over to the members. Is that entire, so what exactly is illuminated on this sign on A1?
Yeah, so it'll be the dark, what looks like the dark letters and the logo. It's just that the individual letters and the logo will be lit. So at night, it's a perforated vinyl film. So in the day, it will read black, which is consistent with their logo color. And at night, you'll see the light through it, and it'll glow. So
the sort of large panel that they're mounted on is not internally illuminated in any way.
No, so that panel, it's affixed directly to the mechanical screen, so that image is a little deceiving in that way. There is, yeah.
All right, Steve, do you have some questions, comments?
Yeah, how thick are letters and what color are the sides returns?
I think
it's like A2.
Yeah, so the returns would be the black vinyl, similar to the vinyl that wraps the that is applied to the face, and then the thickness. Sorry,
You should be aluminum, I would imagine. The return vinyl is on the face.
Yeah, it's just fabricated dimensional letters.
Yeah, fabricated metal. Yeah, I apologize. That's right. It's aluminum.
And what color would it be?
Like a stainless. But I mean, if there is a preference, we would, we'd happily, do something else.
Len, do you have any questions on this one at this point?
No comments from me for right now.
Okay, Chad? We're not getting your sound, Chad, sorry.
Sorry, Heather, yeah. On the line work drawings, I think as Mark was saying, it looks like there's a panel there, but when I look at the sort of rendered image, it looks like the IDG letters are just kind of floating on the screen itself. So just confirming on the one hand that all the letters are in fact mounted to a panel, and then is the intent that that panel gets painted out to match the mechanical screen?
Yes, so the line drawings are a little bit deceiving. The individual letters will actually be applied directly to the mechanical screen, so there's no panel, there's no backing panel behind it.
Okay. That's actually better from my perspective, so that's good.
No, I would agree, yeah.
Any comments on the size? We've had the PTC sign up there for a while as a sample to kind of compare. This is pretty much the same size, a little smaller, I believe, George.
Yeah, so it's 90, roughly 92 square feet versus 53. So we're quite a bit smaller here, but it's similar in length. It's just it's a lot shorter in height.
Okay.
I have another question.
Sure. Okay, Steve, go ahead.
The gray lines, how are you making those?
So, sorry, Steve, could you repeat the question?
In the logo, the first like black circle, it has like a gray line that extends beyond the circle.
Yeah.
What are those made out of?
I'm at this point, I'm not quite
How are you going to, are those lit or non-lit?
I think the intent would be that they would be lit.
And what color would they be lit?
It would be the same as the rest of the logo. So with, you know, at night it will be sort of more illuminated. So it'll appear sort of, yeah, almost like a kind of a white logo.
You know that film you're using, it'll light like a gray white.
Yeah.
So we don't know how that's being made. We don't know what we're getting.
I don't have the exact design details right now.
Right. Well, maybe that's something you can look into before the
Yeah.
special permit hearing and just see. Because sometimes, yeah, those things end up not being so thin because you can't build a channel and get the electronics into it and everything. So just a little bit better understanding of that portion of it would be helpful.
Great.
So can we move to the A2, which is on the wall of the building, facing the internal courtyard? Chad, do you want to start us off? Any questions?
So I do understand that whereas PTC had the whole complex and now it's going to be in all likelihood different tenants in different buildings, a need to provide identification of where individual tenants are located. I guess one of the concerns in approving one single sign like this is that it potentially sets a precedent for lots of multi-tenants. So if you have one building that has, you know, 3 floors, 3 or 4 different tenants in it, does everybody expect a sign of similar size and located near their, you know, on their building? There's a variety of different ways that the different buildings and different tenant spaces can be occupied. Sometimes it could be other kinds of consolidated directional sign. Sign like this located on the building might be okay, but I think it would be good to have some kind of a dialogue about an overall kind of master plan for signs. And, you know, is there a certain sign that's allowed if you have the whole building, but a different kind of sign that's allowed if you're a smaller tenant? I think in the permitting, when the whole complex across the street was developed, what we ended up doing was creating a kind of baseline that guidelines could be applied to, so that we didn't have to go back through an entire permitting process the entire time. And so I think from my standpoint, you know, I do a quick little takeoff, you know, it's below 30 square feet. So it's not, you know, at the highway scale, but before all these different buildings start to get plastered with a lot of different signs, I would welcome a little bit of dialogue about how, you know, a complex-wide kind of set of signage standards might be applied, just so we don't have every single tenant wanting the exact same size and treatment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we sort of, you know, we've set some very sort of fixed signage standards and thresholds. And we sort of said, hey, you know, if you lease a single building as a tenant, you can have, you know, one interior facing sign, at least obviously subject to approval. So, so to your point, yeah, it's really any tenant that, you know, that has an entire building to themselves. Yeah. And so
then, I would welcome, you know, when you come back as an attachment to the exhibit, you know, it doesn't need to be every, you know, the thing that the tenant is signing off to, but if there's a way of kind of consolidating the signage standards that go hand in hand with the kind of lease agreements, then I think it's something that the board could have on file, knowing that if somebody else comes down the road later and wants some different treatment, we've got something to go back to and say, no, we agreed to, a certain set of guidelines, just so the whole thing doesn't start getting plastered.
Absolutely. We've sort of said, because there are 3 buildings, we've said one interior facing, potentially one sort of on the mechanical screen, which, exists today with PTC, and then one at the campus entrance. So anyone else who leases less than that, has a logo at the building entrance, and that's really it.
Yeah, I would say, sorry, I'm kind of dominating the conversation here, but the PTC screen sign, I think we discussed for a while and ultimately recognized that it's a little hard to, you don't necessarily see the entrance or, a more kind of Kendrick Street scaled sign. And so we ultimately did agree to the sign on the mechanical screen for PTC. But the other mechanical screens are, I'm hard pressed to think that they're going to be visible at all from the highway. And so if there was a thought that there might be a sign on the mechanical screen pointing in the opposite direction, kind of further down Kendrick Street, so that somebody might see it when they're approaching more from the Newton direction, that wouldn't be visible from 128. So the kind of thing that allowed the PTC sign would probably not be allowed on some of the other screens. So I think that that's something that just to keep in mind, is it really needs to be visible from 128 to be justified.
Yeah, so PTC have one on the Kendrick facing mechanical screen as well. So they have 2 on those mechanical screens. I mean, you can see it. Obviously, it's, you can't see it for very long. And again, as you come off the highway, it's a lot more visible as well. Sorry, Mark, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, it's not my day for the mutation here. We're trying to avoid is trying to get a little bit of earlier control on these multi-tenant buildings, which this historically was not, so it wasn't a real big issue. But there's, for instance, the Bullfinch building up on A Street, where for years we've had between the first floor windows and the second floor windows, a whole band of 5 or 6 different signs for every tenant.
Mm.
And, the bylaw doesn't totally control that. There's some limitations in square footage and other things that we can use to do that. But we'd like to, so what we're trying to do now is work with landlords as early as possible and try and set some parameters about what they're doing and what we might consider. My thoughts on this sign is that it's 49 square feet. So if it's at all possible to get it in compliance with the 32 square foot area limit would be helpful. Or did I do my math wrong? I thought I just did that.
Yeah, I think I'm at, so it's
2'8".
It's 10'9" by 2'8". So it's.
Oh, okay, the imagery. I got that. Okay. I've measured the whole panel again.
And again, that
Okay.
line work is a little deceiving. It's not mounted onto a back panel. It's going to be affixed directly to the brick.
Gotcha. Good. Okay. Steve, any questions? I'm sorry. Chad, go ahead.
I was just gonna say to Mark's point, if there is a panel, we typically dimension the whole panel as the sign, not just the text.
No, but it's just individually mounted letters.
Okay. You might change that graphics if you can when you come back, so it's not confusing. Steve, you have any questions?
No, I would just like to see the revised of it, without the panel.
Len, any questions?
No comment for me.
Okay. All right, let's look at the monument sign at the front entrance. If I remember correctly, Steve, this sign isn't illuminated, is it?
It's uplit.
No.
Right, it's lit from externally. Okay.
Yeah.
And the plan is just the lettering on a white background or light colored background?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so Len, do you have any questions?
No, not on my end.
Steve?
If you look at the photograph and you see the spacing of the IDG and the IDC, there's some space between it. But if you look at the drawing, it's supposed to be to scale with the numbers, everything looks really pretty crowded. And this doesn't really look right. This one on the bottom looks a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that line work on there may be just making it more busy, but I'll just confirm that is.
And one more point, like in the next sign, the little sign, which is almost a duplicate of this, you have a 1/8 line here, and on this one you have a 1/8 line here, but these letters are 2.5 inches times the height. So that line should be 2.5 inches times as thick, so that it will be appropriate. That line looks like it can be look invisible, that little black line.
Okay, so increase the weighting of the black line on the front signage
Well,
on
it doesn't
A3.
match the next sign, which looks appropriate.
Okay.
That little sign.
Yeah, the spacing indicated on the dimensioning is that the bottom of the space between the top and bottom of the two different logos is only 2 inches between the two globes. But you look at the photoshopped image of it on the sign in it, they look like they're much more spaced a little bit further apart. So I think that seeing a little more spacing, that if you can get a little more spacing, whether you have to drop the letter size down 1/2 inch or something, would be good.
Okay.
Chad, do you have any questions?
I just go back to my multi-tenant scenario. So if this is put on as a temporary sign, that's one thing, but I think as part of the fact that there will inevitably be multiple businesses in here that all want to get identified at street level, it'd be nice to know if that is going to be remaining a single monument. You know, we wouldn't want to see a whole proliferation of, you know, new monuments for every tenant. Just looking at Google Earth, it looks like there's an electrical transformer across the way, so we probably couldn't get another monument sign over there. So I would encourage some thought to whether or not there's just only going to be a single identification there, or if there's an opportunity for multiple tenants to be identified on the monument.
Yeah, so we'll certainly address that. You know, our intent is that there's up to 3 tenants because we have 3 buildings, no more than that, and only if they have, you know, 100% of one building. This is, you know, as I mentioned, we plan on upgrading all of this. So I would say within the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to come with a more comprehensive upgraded signage plan. And this is really just temporary. So yeah, it will, you know, we'll be planning for up to 3.
Okay. Well,
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Do allow a what's called a compound sign. So if you look through the bylaw, you can read about those, and that's that's how you put multiple tenants on. I don't think it's been done on a sort of ground-mounted sign before, but you can kind of look at that and think about whether you want some sort of major identification at the driveway, and then internally everybody else gets a little bit bigger or something. And we can kind of consider that. You do have a fair amount of space and a big internal courtyard. So I'm less troubled by the interior ones as I am along the road. And how you, but you, again, you have a long street front. There may be ways that we can find working with you to help you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the challenges with this is, you know, this you know, campus, this asset is, you know, we've taken what was really something that was a single tenanted building, and now having to think about it as a multi-tenanted asset. You know, and I think how we think about it, at least, is, you know, kind of the bit, you know, a lot of buildings, is the building name is in big letters, 140 Kendrick. But for us, I mean, I think we feel like, you know, that it's the tenant really that should be, you know, sort of more front facing. And, you know, if we're going to attract, you know, 240,000 square feet of new leasing, it's, you know, the signage is, the reality is it's going to be a really critical component of it.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Yeah, I understand. I mean, you've got the whole Kendrick Street. If you were to come back and need to put a sign on building C along Kendrick, you know, a larger wall sign, you know, I think there's some reason to support that given the way the place lays out. But as I said, what we're going to be careful with is we're not going to look for having 3 or 4 tenants noted up there with a little illuminated sign like some of the other locations have been doing. We want to try and control that a little bit.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so just keep that in mind as you see if you can think of some ways to get them identity that will keep, that gives them the identity they need, but doesn't overwhelm the whole neighborhood.
Completely. And we wouldn't be in favor of that either, you know.
Okay. All right. Anything else, members? Okay. Well, so as I said, you can kind of take these comments, make any modifications you want to, and then get the special permit process. That is a public hearing, so that it's run a little bit differently, but you'll be the first person on the agenda once you get that all organized.
Right.
And then we'll take public input if anybody wants to comment, which is a little bit different from this meeting.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Great. No, thank you for taking your time.
All right. All right. The next item is the minutes of a meeting of July 13th. Any edits or comments on the minutes?
Nothing major jumped out.
Okay. All right. So I would take a motion to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2020.
Second.
So moved.
All right. And the vote, where's my list? Len Karen,
In favor.
Chad Riley,
In favor?
Steve Tanner. Need your audio, Steve, please. You can just say yes. I hear you. Okay. Thumbs up. And the chair approves. And so I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second. Can
Second.
someone second that? Thank you. Again, Len Karen,
In favor.
Chad Riley,
In favor?
Steve Tanner,
In favor.
and the chair approves. So we are adjourned. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Elisa.
You too. Thank
Thank you.
Mark. I guess we'll be talking about if there's anything I should know differently than, you know, with regard to someone like, you know, George Needs. Because I always tell them to talk to Dave Roach, but.
Well, the old building inspector would let these special permits continue. So the last time we changed the bylaw to change the sort of the downtown design guideline part, we also changed that piece so that they do not carry over. And so internally at Boston Properties, they're like, oh yeah, you can keep going. We've done that. You can't do that anymore. So, because we wanted to get them back in. And the first thing they did is they've moved this to a different part of the mechanical screen. So it actually isn't the same sign. But they're pretty amenable for the most part. This is just a little confusing, this guy with the white panels.
Yeah.
It's making it look like he had a 300 square foot sign board up there, but I think it'll be okay otherwise.
Well, it's a whole learning process too for me to hear the kinds of questions you guys ask. It's good. And I understand what you're looking for and looking at.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I will, go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say, a lot of times, you know, we'll make a decision that might appear to be isolated to one thing, but then people will try to interpret that as some kind of a precedent. And so, you know, whether it's a single building that has multiple storefronts in the downtown area or a whole building complex, what we're looking for is some forethought so that, you know, the first one goes in and picks the best spot, and then everyone else is trying to scramble to put something in, and, you know, there's not a good place to put it, but someone else got, you know, that kind of favoritism, so why can't I get it? And so a lot of it is just trying to make sure people think about it in advance
Right.
and have some kind of a game plan so that when the second person comes in, it's not, trying to shoehorn something in where it doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, you did get, and I forwarded the email from Yuran Patel about the Indian restaurant, the kitchen. He changed it, the whole font. Did you see that?
I'll have to look for it. I don't.
Yeah, he's like, is this going to fly now? And I was amazed that, based on the conversations you all had at the last meeting, he changed it. I mean, if you want, I can send it to all of you. I just have to log into my work
Yeah,
computer.
you can send it tomorrow. That's fine. Well, that's good. I think we left him that option. So sometimes we're helpful. I mean, I remember Volante Farms when they did their building.
Yeah.
They came in with a big metal building. It was horrible. And we just worked with them and gave them some suggestions.
Thank goodness you did.
And then it came out nicely, I thought.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Lisa, I will get these marked up. Well, that was just an approval as straightforward. So
Yeah.
easy. I'll scan it and email it to Rana, or she
Yeah,
gonna be on for a while?
she emailed me during the meeting and said she just landed and had to still go through customs, and it's like 1:30 in the morning. So her plan is that you send everything like you would have, and she's going to have someone, she has to quarantine when she gets back, but someone from her house will go to PSAB, pick up printouts, and
She has the stamp?
she's going to do it all from home and then mail them out.
Okay.
But while we're talking, if you don't mind, there was one other thing that sort of arose from this whole process as it's evolving. So people are sending the 3 copies, but now you are printing them, or you're printing them, stamping them, and then scanning them to Rana, correct?
Yeah, pretty much, because otherwise I can't,
Right.
I don't want to go pick up paper copies and write on them. So we could probably just say submit it electronically for now.
Okay, well, the thing, when we
Unless it-
first started it, she was getting the 3 copies, and whatever you sent her as a scan, she would just transpose onto it. She'd take our stamp and then say, per Mark Lusing, and per DRB and Mark Lusing, approve with or without. And she'd send 2 to the applicant. But now, if you're gonna stamp everything,
I can't stamp it.
you're stamping a scan.
I'm not.
Oh, you don't have
I don't have the stamp. I just write the notes and send them to her. All she should do is stamp it and sign it. That's all she
So
has.
is it necessary for the applicant then to send 3 copies if she's printing out what you're sending her, which is based on an electronic version, and she's stamping that? She could just print 3 of those. 1 stays with us and 2 go to the applicant. They don't even have to submit hard copies then.
Only if they're large format. If they're large format, they'll have to submit them because I can only print 11 by 17.
Right.
I'm not going to pay to get large format prints. So if they have large format, they'll have to send in 3 copies and she'll have to transpose the notes.
Okay.
But anything smaller, I think, yeah, she should just stamp whatever I send her and send it on the way, save some time.
Okay.
I don't want to burn up her time too, because there's going to be times when we
I know.
need
I
her.
know. Luckily, it's only been about 2.5 hours here and there.
Yeah.
So she's staying within the hours.
But the notes themselves are hard, so I think the notes probably take a lot of time, and I want to make sure she has enough time to do them.
Okay. And I did send you instructions, the whole applicant instructions thing that I was working on.
Yeah, I haven't had a
Which
chance.
now, if we're going to update it to reflect how we're doing this,
Okay.
we would say that. Just email, don't send in unless it's large format.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
Okay.
Didn't
And I
have to have everyone listen, but okay.
That's how they need to understand the business.
Okay.
Grooming the next chair here, Lisa.
Why? What are you thinking?
I'm getting tired of it.
Oh, but it's so much, it's different now with
Yeah.
Zoom.
Steve and I have been here a long time. We need to let the others lead too. So, all right. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
All right, guys, have a good night.
All right.
All right. Good night.
Good night.